The best of Money Matters. The Big Story.
Welcome to The Big Story. I'm Hongbin Jeong. Now, after spending an unexpected 9 months in space, NASA astronauts Butch, Wilmore, and Sunita Williams have finally returned to Earth. Originally launched aboard Boeing Starliner, technical issues with the spacecraft left them stranded on the International Space Station far longer than planned. Now, their journey back was marked by a dramatic re-entry through the Earth's atmosphere aboard a SpaceX capsule, which deployed 4 parachutes for a smooth splashdown off the coast of Florida. But what led to their prolonged stay aboard the International Space Station? How did they adapt to the unexpected challenges of an extended mission? And what does this mean for the future of space expeditions? And joining us today is Simon Gwozdz, who is the CEO and founder of Equatorial Space Systems. Hi, Simon. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Simon, NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams finally reached Earth after 9 months in space, which was supposedly an 8-day mission. Could you tell us why this was the case? What exactly happened there?
Sure. So first, I have to give you a little bit of background information. So NASA, which is one of the operators of the International Space Station, which is used for a wide range of research in orbit, has created a so-called commercial crew program to tap onto the industry suppliers for crewed vehicle provision. So they basically started to buy tickets on commercial launches with commercial capsules to deliver the crews to man the International Space Station. So Boeing was one of the suppliers selected for the program, and it was the very first time it was supposed to conduct a crewed mission to the ISS. However, there has been a malfunction with the capsule's propulsion system, specifically a so-called reaction controls, which are critical for managing orientation in space. As a result, the remainder of the mission was scrapped and an alternative return option had to be devised.
I see. Well, was there a similar situation that happened during previous NASA expeditions, or was this the first ever mission which has made such headlines and outcome?
Well, I believe that's actually the very first time there has been an alternative return for astronauts from space. A similar, or rather a potentially similar incident involving the reaction control system did happen during one of the Gemini missions with, actually Neil Armstrong was one of the crew members back then. And it's very bad when that happens. You can't control which side the capsule is pointing, and in most extreme cases, it can also result in uncontrolled tumbling, which of course is very, very bad. So because of the leaks which were detected in the capsule's control systems, in overabundance of caution, NASA decided to not risk it, not take the unnecessary, risk on the return leg, and that's what created the situation.
I see. And as you mentioned earlier, now their intended ride home, the Boeing Starliner capsule that delivered them to the ISS last June, left them waiting for a backup plan. And that backup plan came at long last courtesy of Musk's SpaceX. Now, why did Elon Musk's SpaceX have the capabilities to bring the astronauts home?
Yeah, so aside from the recent pretty public failures of their newest product from SpaceX, which is the Starship, SpaceX developed a very reliable workhorse, which is the Falcon 9 launch vehicle, and it continues operating today quite frequently, in fact. The other thing that they have developed is the Crew Dragon capsule, which has also been selected for the commercial crew program even before Boeing Starliner was, and it was already pretty well demonstrated and used regularly for similar missions. So the return mission was decided pretty early on. However, the stints in orbit typically take around 6 months, and the crewed mission number 8 actually launched from Earth in September, but it wasn't due to return until now. What was changed is the crew was reduced from 4 to 2 personnel so that 2 extra seats were saved for our stranded heroes.
I see. Well, do you think Elon Musk is the biggest winner out of this ordeal? I mean, what do you make of Elon Musk's growing influence over U.S. space policy?
Well, of course, it's never good to put all your eggs in one basket, and that's one of the reasons why NASA chose to work with multiple suppliers for the crew program in the first place. Certainly, Elon has an excellent way of, projecting his PR victory. So there's optics-wise, there's definitely going to be plenty for SpaceX to win out of this.
I see.
However, I do have to say that the biggest winner, I think, is actually the entire space ecosystem, because for the very first time ever, we've got the redundancy in place that offers options such as this one, and that would not have been imaginable 15 years ago.
But do you think this would spark any concerns? I mean, could Musk have the power to shift NASA's priorities further in SpaceX's favor, potentially sidelining?
Well, that is a concern. I think the U.S. space industry is looking very closely at what kind of favors can the administration possibly afford Musk, especially considering his existing influence over the administration. So that's certainly going to be something that we'll be following very closely moving forward, and we're quite interested in how it plays out.
I see. Well, the return of astronauts have, been the subject of competing claims about the actions of the Trump and Biden administrations in bringing them home. Do you think this was the case, given the reports also highlighted that, the cause of delay is due to technical difficulties?
Well, again, the decision was pretty much made, and the plans were already laid out even before the elections. So, certainly there's going to be a lot of competition of who takes the most, credit for that. At the end of the day, it's the hardworking, professional men and women of NASA and all of their suppliers, including SpaceX and including Boeing, who made that mission a success, who prevented any unlikely but still, possible emergencies from emerging, and I think they deserve all the credit, really.
I see. Well, Simon, experts have said that spending a prolonged period in space, especially many months, can come with many changes to human sociology and, psychology. Data has also shown that if someone is in space for 5 months, the body takes about the same time to recover in terms of bone mass and muscle, but some evidence remains of a long-term loss of 1% to 2% of your capacity after a long stay in space. So after spending nearly 7,000 hours in space, what types of health concerns will they face back home? I mean, what are some of the effects of human health of space travel?
Yeah, we are not accustomed to not having gravity acting on our bodies, and that affects our musculoskeletal system especially, but there is some indirect effect on our other organs. For instance, kidney. Astronauts in orbit take sometimes even a few hours a day exercising, doing resistance training to overcome some of these effects or reduce them, but they can't eliminate it fully. So as the calcium in our bones starts to essentially get pumped back into the bloodstream, it may affect our kidneys adversely.
I see.
And of course, loss of muscle and bone mass does cause troubles upon return when human body is once again subject to gravity conditions back on the surface. And as a result, you do have a period of rehabilitation after long-term space exposure. But that said, 9 months is not the record. The record was over a year.
Right.
So throughout the entire period of time, I am quite confident that there has been no excessive danger that the crew was exposed to.
I see. In that case, are we not built for space flights?
Well, we can certainly use more interesting infrastructure to facilitate it, like, for instance, centrifugal-shaped spacecraft that generate artificial gravity through rotation. And I think that's going to be quite critical for long-term space exposure, especially for missions that go outside of the Earth's sphere of influence. But that said, our understanding of the medical impact of space travel has been improved just immensely over the last decades. Many mitigation strategies have been employed as a result of that, and much of that can be, we have the International Space Station to thank for much of that.
I see. Does that mean, those solutions will help us with future long-term space expeditions, and can, expect more long-term space expeditions in that case?
I do believe so, yes. Of course, it's best if you can reduce the overall duration in the first place, but in some mission profiles, that's just not very practical. So I do believe that moving forward in the next coming years and decades, we'll see multiple advancements in space medicine that help to overcome the long-term exposure challenges.
I see. Overall, Simon, what does this whole fiasco mean for the future of space travel?
Well, again, I wouldn't call it a fiasco, really. Space is difficult, and even very well-seasoned contractors such as Boeing do struggle with reliability sometimes. The delayed return, and I have to highlight that Starline and Capsule actually made a safe return to Earth after some troubleshooting without the crew because of the excessive risk, but it did land back on Earth without any incidents. So I think this is actually a sign of maturity for space industry and the ecosystem, because space is notoriously difficult, and even seasoned contractors such as Boeing do sometimes struggle with reliability of their systems. And even though the mission ended up successfully, the uncrewed capsule returned to Earth without incidents, the overabundance of caution that everyone on the team has demonstrated is something that we should actually cherish and celebrate rather than shun and criticize.
I see. And Simon, before we let you go here, what else will you be looking out for? Do you see this story developing any further?
Well, I think there's going to be an interesting time for Boeing getting another test flight prepared and underway. I'm not quite familiar with the plans for upcoming months, but I think it will still be very healthy for NASA to have multiple options available for commercial crew program. And I would definitely like to see the full certification of the platform in the coming months and years.
I see. Well, thank you so much, Simon, for your time and your insights today.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. Have a good one.
Thank you. That was Simon Gwozdz, who is the CEO and founder of Equatorial Space Systems. This has been The Big Story with me, Hongbin Jeong.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.